so your rent is like at the top of the list. Why you would instead go to Vegas?
June of 2018, we rented to the defendants. We had a piece of property that they were looking at moving into, and they filled out an application and they asked for if they could possibly have a couple dogs there. So we had amended our application and allowed them to have 2 small dogs. That was part of the rental agreement. They did show up with 2 small dogs eventually, but then it actually turned into 2 pit bulls and a small dog. So they were in violation of their lease at that time. They also were talking about not paying any rent. So in March of this year, they were talking about, because of the COVID-19, they were having issues paying their rent. We tried to work with them a little bit, and they were saying they weren't working, and so we were trying to work with them, trying to get them caught up on their rent.
How many months were they behind?
At that time, they were approximately 4.5 months. On July 3rd, they sent us a text message saying because of COVID-19, they weren't going to be able to pay their mortgage. And because we were having issues, because they weren't paying their mortgage, we weren't able to pay our mortgage. So I have to pay their mortgage regardless. It's not anything that can be deferred. So we're paying their mortgage at that time. So at this time, we decided, well, maybe we probably should, just go ahead and sell the place because we're not going to be able to refinance it. So we had worked into sending somebody out there to go sell the house. We had an accepted offer on the house. We had a contract to sell the house. When the buyer came in, they did their own inspection report of the property. When that came back, it had quite a few negative comments on there with the unit that they were living in. Photos of marijuana being grown in the house, and there was all kinds of damage to the house that we were unaware of at the time. We're basically going to have to go in there and regut the house and start over because of the damage on the house.
We lost half of our income, if not maybe a little bit more, because my girlfriend here was basically laid off and basically home-ridden because of the COVID. And I was lucky enough to work, part-time, at least 20 to 40. I mean, it was 20 to 40 hours a week, depending. I would say roughly 30, something like that. But, it's just not enough to, take care of all of the responsibilities like the bills, and we were having enough trouble keeping up with the utilities and all the other bills we have. And what happened was we got behind, and we were never able to catch up because of the COVID.
You were paying the utility bills?
Yes, sir. We paid.
In terms of.
Yeah, we were trying to keep
Were you up to date?
Yes.
Were you up to date at the utilities?
Yes, sir. We're up to date with our utilities. We have no problems there.
So you're only behind on the rent?
Yes, sir.
I don't mean to cut you off, sir, but 2 things. One was I talked to his employer just a couple days ago. His employer told me that he was employed 100% collecting a full paycheck, the complete time with the exception of 2 weeks. Mr. Koval received a complete and full paycheck the entire time that he was claiming COVID-19.
What about the marijuana in the house?
There's photos of marijuana that was being grown in the house. The guys that were they did the report for the buyer of the house. They're the ones that actually sent that over to us because we had no idea that they were growing marijuana in the house.
Is it in a state where it's allowed to be grown?
It is allowed to be grown, but they were over the legal amount.
And what was the legal amount?
The legal amount in the state of California is six plants in any state per adult. And there's 2 adults in the unit, and there was they had more than 12.
What do you say about that, Austin and Nina?
Your Honor, I did have 2 more plants, more than I was allowed, 1 per person. Other than that, I guess we did break the law there technically because you're only allowed to have 6 plants. But they've known that I've had marijuana plants over the years. I've lived there for 2 years, and I've even given marijuana plants to the plaintiff's wife. So they knew we had the marijuana plants.
And additionally, he found time and found the money to take 2 trips to Vegas. He took a trip to Vegas on July 24th through the 27th.
Yeah, what about that?
Yes, sir. So
look, I'm not telling anyone how to spend their free time, et cetera, and it's not illegal to go to Vegas. But if your excuse for not paying the rent is COVID, and whatever money you did have, rather than paying your primary obligation, obviously, is so that you can eat and you can have a place to live. So your rent is like at the top of the list. why you would instead go to Vegas.
Photos of them a couple different times in Vegas during this
Yeah,
time
well, they're
frame.
not denying that they
So-
went, and I think we may have those photos, and,
Yeah.
and they're not denying it. But you understand what I'm saying to you. Were you high when you went there?
No, sir. I think this is just a big misunderstanding. So
Yeah.
the plaintiff here gave us a 60-day notice, and we immediately started looking for places in San Diego to move to, and we cannot find the one thing around our price range. Okay. So we actually, her family is in Las Vegas, and we had to go there to move stuff to a storage unit. Okay. We didn't go there for fun. We went there to move our stuff. We had to. I made 2 trips. He's right. To move my personal belongings to a storage unit.
COVID, even when you meet the requirements of it, in states where they have this, prohibits the eviction of somebody during the COVID season for non-payment of rent. But it does not say that you don't ultimately owe the rent. You know, it may delay the time which the rent comes, but for the time that you live in that apartment, that house, while you're living there, all other issues aside, you still owe the rent. COVID will make the terms a little bit more lenient in terms of timing, but you still owe the rent. In either case, the payment of the rent reaches the $5,000 limit. I find for the plaintiff in the sum of $5,000.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.